Commander Zethkar had served the Galactic Peacekeeping Force for over 3 centuries, but nothing in his extensive military career had prepared him for what he discovered that day on the remote planet of Kepler 442b. The distress signal had been weak, almost lost among the cosmic background radiation. His ship's sensors had detected it purely by chance during a routine patrol of the Outer Rim territories. The signal originated from an uncharted world, one that wasn't supposed to harbor any intelligent life according to the galactic databases. As his sleek vessel descended through the planet's atmosphere, Zethkar noted the unusual energy readings emanating from the surface. The world was beautiful in its wilderness, covered in vast forests of crystalline trees that sparkled like diamonds under the binary suns. Rivers of liquid silver wound through valleys carpeted with bioluminescent flora that pulsed with gentle rhythms. The source of the distress signal led him to what appeared to be the ruins of an ancient structure, partially overgrown with the planet's exotic vegetation. The architecture was unlike anything in the galactic archives. Organic curves blended seamlessly with geometric precision, as if the building had grown rather than been constructed. Zethkar's 4 arms moved with practiced efficiency as he calibrated his scanner and checked his weapon systems. His reptilian features, marked by the ceremonial scars of his warrior caste, remained impassive as he approached the structure. The Velkari were known throughout the galaxy for their military prowess and unwavering dedication to protecting the innocent, traits that had made them the backbone of the peacekeeping force. The entrance to the structure was sealed by what appeared to be a biomechanical door that responded to his presence with a soft chime. As it irised open, revealing a dimly lit corridor beyond, Zethkar felt the familiar tingle of his enhanced senses detecting potential danger. The air inside was warm and carried an unusual scent, something organic yet mechanical, alive yet artificial. His boots made soft clicking sounds against the polished floor as he moved deeper into the structure. The walls were lined with what looked like dormant machinery, its purpose unclear but its alien design unmistakable. Soft blue lights began to activate as he passed, as if the building was awakening from a long slumber. The distress signal grew stronger as he progressed, leading him through a maze of corridors and chambers. Some rooms contained what appeared to be scientific equipment. Others held displays of star charts showing systems he didn't recognize. Everything suggested this had once been some kind of research facility, though its creators remained a mystery. Finally, the signal led him to a central chamber dominated by a massive crystalline formation that pulsed with internal light. The crystal appeared to be some kind of stasis or containment system, its surface covered in intricate patterns that shifted and moved like living things. But it wasn't the crystal that stopped Zethkar in his tracks. Curled up against the base of the crystal formation was a small humanoid figure. The being was clearly young, perhaps a juvenile of whatever species it belonged to. Its features were delicate, with pale skin and hair the color of starlight. It wore simple clothing that seemed to be some kind of uniform or work attire. But what truly shocked the veteran commander was what the small being held protectively in its arms. Nestled against the humanoid's chest was an egg, no larger than Zethkar's fist, that glowed with an inner fire. The shell was a deep crimson color shot through with veins of gold, and as he watched, tiny flames danced across its surface without burning the small creature that held it. A dragon egg. Zethkar had heard legends of the ancient dragons, mythical beings of immense power that had supposedly vanished from the galaxy eons ago. The galactic archives contained only fragments of information about them, most of it dismissed as folklore by serious scholars. Yet here was evidence that the legends might have been true. The humanoid stirred slightly in its sleep, unconsciously tightening its protective grip on the egg. Zethkar noticed that despite the flames playing across the egg's surface, the small being showed no signs of being burned. If anything, it seemed to be providing some kind of comfort or protection to the unhatched dragon within. Zethkar's scanner indicated that both the humanoid and the egg were alive and in stable condition, though the readings were unlike anything in his database. The small being's physiology was fascinating. Its body seemed to naturally regulate temperature and energy in ways that defied conventional understanding. The dragon egg showed signs of advanced development, suggesting it might hatch soon. As he studied the scene, Zethkar began to notice other details. The area around the sleeping pair was cleaner than the rest of the chamber, as if someone had been maintaining it. Small piles of what looked like supplies were arranged nearby: food containers, water purification tablets, and basic medical supplies. Someone had been caring for this place and for the dragon egg. The humanoid appeared to be female, though Zethkar wasn't entirely certain given his unfamiliarity with the species. Her clothing bore symbols that suggested she might be some kind of caretaker or servant, though the quality of the fabric and the intricate embroidery spoke of a more complex civilization than such a simple role would suggest. Suddenly, the crystal formation pulsed more brightly, and Zethkar detected a change in the energy patterns around the chamber. The dragon egg began to glow more intensely, and he could swear he saw movement within its translucent shell. The humanoid's breathing changed, becoming more regular, as if she was beginning to wake up. Zethkar found himself facing a dilemma that wasn't covered in any peacekeeping force manual. Here was a member of an unknown species protecting what might be the last dragon in the galaxy. The implications were staggering. If dragons truly had existed, and if this egg contained a living specimen, it would revolutionize everything the galaxy thought it knew about its own history. But more immediately pressing was the question of what to do about the sleeping caretaker. She was clearly devoted to protecting the egg, and removing her might cause irreparable harm to both her and the unborn dragon. Yet leaving them here, unprotected and alone, seemed equally wrong. The peacekeeping force's primary directive was to protect innocent life wherever it was found. But this situation challenged every assumption about what constituted life, intelligence, and civilization. As Zethkar stood in the soft glow of the crystal chamber, watching over a sleeping human and an ancient dragon's egg, he realized that his next decision would change not just his own destiny, but potentially the fate of the entire galaxy. Commander Zethkar had served the Galactic Peacekeeping Force for over 3 centuries, but nothing in his extensive military career had prepared him for what he discovered that day on the remote planet of Kepler 442b. The distress signal had been weak, almost lost among the cosmic background radiation. His ship's sensors had detected it purely by chance during a routine patrol of the Outer Rim territories. The signal originated from an uncharted world, one that wasn't supposed to harbor any intelligent life according to the galactic databases. As his sleek vessel descended through the planet's atmosphere, Zethkar noted the unusual energy readings emanating from the surface. The world was beautiful in its wilderness, covered in vast forests of crystalline trees that sparkled like diamonds under the binary suns. Rivers of liquid silver wound through valleys carpeted with bioluminescent flora that pulsed with gentle rhythms. The source of the distress signal led him to what appeared to be the ruins of an ancient structure, partially overgrown with the planet's exotic vegetation. The architecture was unlike anything in the galactic archives. Organic curves blended seamlessly with geometric precision, as if the building had grown rather than been constructed. Zethkar's 4 arms moved with practiced efficiency as he calibrated his scanner and checked his weapon systems. His reptilian features, marked by the ceremonial scars of his warrior caste, remained impassive as he approached the structure. The Velkari were known throughout the galaxy for their military prowess and unwavering dedication to protecting the innocent, traits that had made them the backbone of the peacekeeping force. The entrance to the structure was sealed by what appeared to be a biomechanical door that responded to his presence with a soft chime. As it irised open, revealing a dimly lit corridor beyond, Zethkar felt the familiar tingle of his enhanced senses detecting potential danger. The air inside was warm and carried an unusual scent, something organic yet mechanical, alive yet artificial. His boots made soft clicking sounds against the polished floor as he moved deeper into the structure. The walls were lined with what looked like dormant machinery, its purpose unclear but its alien design unmistakable. Soft blue lights began to activate as he passed, as if the building was awakening from a long slumber. The distress signal grew stronger as he progressed, leading him through a maze of corridors and chambers. Some rooms contained what appeared to be scientific equipment. Others held displays of star charts showing systems he didn't recognize. Everything suggested this had once been some kind of research facility, though its creators remained a mystery. Finally, the signal led him to a central chamber dominated by a massive crystalline formation that pulsed with internal light. The crystal appeared to be some kind of stasis or containment system, its surface covered in intricate patterns that shifted and moved like living things. But it wasn't the crystal that stopped Zethkar in his tracks. Curled up against the base of the crystal formation was a small humanoid figure. The being was clearly young, perhaps a juvenile of whatever species it belonged to. Its features were delicate, with pale skin and hair the color of starlight. It wore simple clothing that seemed to be some kind of uniform or work attire. But what truly shocked the veteran commander was what the small being held protectively in its arms. Nestled against the humanoid's chest was an egg, no larger than Zethkar's fist, that glowed with an inner fire. The shell was a deep crimson color shot through with veins of gold, and as he watched, tiny flames danced across its surface without burning the small creature that held it. A dragon egg. Zethkar had heard legends of the ancient dragons, mythical beings of immense power that had supposedly vanished from the galaxy eons ago. The galactic archives contained only fragments of information about them, most of it dismissed as folklore by serious scholars. Yet here was evidence that the legends might have been true. The humanoid stirred slightly in its sleep, unconsciously tightening its protective grip on the egg. Zethkar noticed that despite the flames playing across the egg's surface, the small being showed no signs of being burned. If anything, it seemed to be providing some kind of comfort or protection to the unhatched dragon within. Zethkar's scanner indicated that both the humanoid and the egg were alive and in stable condition, though the readings were unlike anything in his database. The small being's physiology was fascinating. Its body seemed to naturally regulate temperature and energy in ways that defied conventional understanding. The dragon egg showed signs of advanced development, suggesting it might hatch soon. As he studied the scene, Zethkar began to notice other details. The area around the sleeping pair was cleaner than the rest of the chamber, as if someone had been maintaining it. Small piles of what looked like supplies were arranged nearby: food containers, water purification tablets, and basic medical supplies. Someone had been caring for this place and for the dragon egg. The humanoid appeared to be female, though Zethkar wasn't entirely certain given his unfamiliarity with the species. Her clothing bore symbols that suggested she might be some kind of caretaker or servant, though the quality of the fabric and the intricate embroidery spoke of a more complex civilization than such a simple role would suggest. Suddenly, the crystal formation pulsed more brightly, and Zethkar detected a change in the energy patterns around the chamber. The dragon egg began to glow more intensely, and he could swear he saw movement within its translucent shell. The humanoid's breathing changed, becoming more regular, as if she was beginning to wake up. Zethkar found himself facing a dilemma that wasn't covered in any peacekeeping force manual. Here was a member of an unknown species protecting what might be the last dragon in the galaxy. The implications were staggering. If dragons truly had existed, and if this egg contained a living specimen, it would revolutionize everything the galaxy thought it knew about its own history. But more immediately pressing was the question of what to do about the sleeping caretaker. She was clearly devoted to protecting the egg, and removing her might cause irreparable harm to both her and the unborn dragon. Yet leaving them here, unprotected and alone, seemed equally wrong. The peacekeeping force's primary directive was to protect innocent life wherever it was found. But this situation challenged every assumption about what constituted life, intelligence, and civilization. As Zethkar stood in the soft glow of the crystal chamber, watching over a sleeping human and an ancient dragon's egg, he realized that his next decision would change not just his own destiny, but potentially the fate of the entire galaxy. The egg cracked with a sound like singing crystal, and Sarah felt her heart skip a beat. The shell split along the golden veins she had noticed earlier, revealing glimpses of movement within. A tiny claw, no bigger than her fingernail, pushed through one of the larger cracks, followed by a miniature snout that glowed with inner fire. "Easy, little one," Sarah whispered, her voice instinctively taking on the soothing tone she had used during the long months of caring for the egg. "Take your time." Zethkar watched in stunned silence as the baby dragon worked its way free from the shell. The creature was no larger than Sarah's hand, its scales a deep crimson that shifted to gold at the edges. Tiny wisps of flame flickered around its nostrils as it breathed, but like the fire from the egg, these flames seemed harmless, more like expressions of emotion than weapons. When the dragon finally emerged completely, it looked up at Sarah with eyes that seemed far too ancient for something that had just been born. Those eyes held intelligence, wisdom, and something else that made Sarah's breath catch: absolute trust. "Hello, beautiful," she murmured, gently stroking the dragon's head with one finger. The scales were warm and surprisingly soft, like heated silk. The dragon chirped softly and nuzzled against her palm. "Remarkable," Zethkar breathed. "In all the legends, I never read anything about dragons being so small when they hatched." "Maybe the legends got a lot of things wrong," Sarah suggested, carefully cradling the tiny dragon against her chest. "Or maybe dragons are different than people remembered." The newborn dragon seemed to examine its surroundings with curious eyes before turning its attention to Zethkar. For a moment, the Velkari warrior tensed, unsure how the legendary creature would react to his presence. But instead of fear or aggression, the dragon tilted its head and made a soft trilling sound that somehow conveyed friendly curiosity. "I think it likes you," Sarah said, surprised. "It's not afraid at all." "Dragons are said to be excellent judges of character," Zethkar replied, carefully extending one clawed finger toward the baby. The dragon sniffed delicately at his hand before gently touching its nose to his claw. A warm sensation flowed through the contact, and Zethkar felt a brief touch of the dragon's mind. Innocent, trusting and radiating pure joy at being alive. Suddenly, the chamber around them erupted into activity. The ancient systems that had remained dormant for millennia began powering up with increasing intensity. Displays that Sarah had never seen active before flickered to life, showing star charts and streams of data in languages she didn't recognize. "What's happening?" she asked, instinctively protecting the dragon as energy patterns swirled around them. Zethkar studied the displays with growing amazement. "These are records," he said, his voice filled with awe. "Historical records going back millions of years. The hatching has activated some kind of archive system." One of the displays showed images that made both of them gasp. Dragons, fully grown and magnificent, soared through starfields alongside spacecraft of incredible design. The images showed a vast civilization spanning thousands of worlds, with dragons and various humanoid species working together in harmony. "They weren't just legends," Sarah whispered. "Dragons really did exist, and they were part of galactic civilization." "More than that," Zethkar said, studying the ancient text that accompanied the images. "According to these records, dragons were the guardians of knowledge itself. They preserved the wisdom of countless civilizations, storing it in their collective memory to prevent it from being lost." The baby dragon in Sarah's arms chirped as if responding to the conversation. It spread its tiny wings, which were translucent and beautiful, shot through with veins of gold that caught the light. Despite its size, the wings seemed perfectly formed and functional. "But what happened to them?" Sarah asked. "If they were so important, why did they disappear?" More images flashed across the displays, showing scenes of conflict and destruction. Massive warships engaged in battle, while dragons attempted to evacuate knowledge and artifacts from dying worlds. The final images showed dragons retreating to hidden sanctuaries, their eggs placed in stasis to wait for a safer time. They went into hiding, Zethkar realized. When the Great Wars nearly destroyed galactic civilization, they preserved their eggs and went into hibernation, waiting for the galaxy to become peaceful enough for them to emerge safely. "And now one has," Sarah said, looking down at the tiny dragon with new understanding. "But why now? Why here?" The answer came from an unexpected source. The baby dragon looked up at Sarah, and for a moment, she felt a flood of images and emotions flow through their connection. She saw humanity's first tentative steps into space, their discoveries of ancient ruins, their respectful treatment of artifacts and knowledge they didn't understand. She felt the dragon's recognition of something familiar in human nature: curiosity, protectiveness, and a desire to preserve rather than destroy. "It's because we're like them," Sarah said in wonder. "Humans, I mean. We preserve knowledge, we protect things even when we don't understand them. The dragon sensed that in me and our species." Zethkar nodded slowly. "The peacekeeping force has noted your species' unusual relationship with ancient technology. You seem to activate systems that remain dormant for others. Perhaps there is a genetic or spiritual connection to the old civilizations." The chamber continued to reveal its secrets as more systems came online. One display showed a map of the galaxy with thousands of points marked in various colors. Sarah realized these must be the locations of other dragon sanctuaries, hidden throughout known and unknown space. "There are more," she breathed. "Hundreds of them. But they won't hatch until conditions are right," Zethkar said, studying the data. "This one hatched because it sensed the right guardian, someone who could protect and nurture it during its most vulnerable time." The baby dragon seemed to understand the conversation. It chirped softly and nestled closer to Sarah, its tiny body radiating contentment and trust. Despite its miniature size, Sarah could sense the vast potential within the creature, not just for growth but for wisdom and knowledge that could benefit the entire galaxy. "What do we do now?" she asked, feeling overwhelmed by the responsibility. "I can't just raise a dragon on an abandoned research station, and if there are people looking for artifacts like this, they'll come back eventually." Zethkar considered the situation carefully. His duty as a peacekeeping force officer was clear: protect innocent life and preserve galactic peace. But this situation went far beyond normal protocols. The return of dragons to the galaxy could change everything, for better or worse depending on how it was handled. "You need protection," he said finally. "Both of you. And the dragon will need proper care as it grows. But more importantly, you both need time to understand what this means for the galaxy." The dragon lifted its head and looked directly at Zethkar, making a sound that was almost like a question. The Velkhari warrior felt another brief mental contact, and this time he sensed the dragon's curiosity about him, its interest in his protective nature, and something that felt almost like an invitation. "I think," Zethkar said slowly, "that you're both inviting me to help, to become part of this incredible journey." Sarah looked at the alien warrior who had appeared at exactly the right moment, arriving just as the dragon was ready to hatch. It couldn't be coincidence. The dragon had called for help, and the universe had sent exactly the right person to answer that call. "Will you?" she asked. "Help us, I mean. I don't know anything about the galaxy or how to keep a dragon safe out there." Zethkar looked at the tiny dragon, then at the human woman who had sacrificed everything to protect it. In his centuries of service, he had never encountered anything as important as this moment. The rebirth of dragons could bring unprecedented knowledge and wisdom to a galaxy that desperately needed both. "Yes," he said simply. "I will help you both for as long as you need me." Over the following days, an extraordinary relationship began to develop between the three unlikely companions. Sarah had initially worried about how the baby dragon would adapt to life outside its egg, but her fears proved groundless. The tiny creature, whom she had started calling Ember for its flickering flames, seemed to possess an intelligence far beyond what its size suggested. Ember quickly established routines that amazed both Sarah and Zethkar. The dragon would spend hours studying the ancient displays that continued to activate throughout the facility, its large eyes tracking symbols and images with obvious comprehension. When it grew tired, it would curl up against Sarah's neck, its warm scales providing comfort to both of them. Zethkar found himself fascinated by the dragon's rapid development. Within just 3 days, Ember had doubled in size and its flames had grown stronger and more controlled. The Velkhari warrior's military training had taught him to observe and analyze, and what he saw defied everything he thought he knew about biological development. "It's not just growing physically," he told Sarah, as they watched Ember practice flying short distances around the chamber. "Its mental capacity is expanding at an incredible rate. Yesterday it was responding to simple commands. Today it's demonstrating problem-solving skills that would challenge most adult sentience." Sarah nodded, having noticed the same thing. "Sometimes I catch it looking at the star charts like it understands them. Not just looking, studying them, memorizing them." Ember landed gracefully on Sarah's outstretched arm, and chirped in what they had learned was its sound of agreement. The dragon then turned to one of the active displays and made a series of complex sounds that caused the image to change, zooming in on a specific star system. "Did it just give the system a command?" Zethkar asked in amazement. "I think so," Sarah replied, watching as Ember manipulated the display with increasing confidence. "It's like the technology recognizes it as a legitimate user." The implications were staggering. If dragons had created or at least helped design these ancient systems, then Ember might have inherited not just genetic memories, but actual technological knowledge. The tiny creature was essentially a living repository of lost civilization. But with understanding came new concerns. Zethakar's experience in the peacekeeping force had taught him that knowledge, especially ancient knowledge, could be dangerous in the wrong hands. The raiders who had attacked the research station months ago were just one example of groups that would do anything to acquire such power. "We need to talk about the future," he said during one of their evening meals. They had been subsisting on Sarah's carefully rationed supplies, but those wouldn't last much longer. This facility is remarkable, but it's isolated and vulnerable. If more raiders come, we might not be able to protect Ember. Sarah had been dreading this conversation, but she knew Zethkar was right. What do you suggest? The peacekeeping force has secure facilities throughout the galaxy, Zethkar said. Places where Ember could grow safely while we study the implications of the dragon's return. Ember, who had been listening to their conversation while examining a piece of ancient technology, suddenly made a sound of distress. The dragon flew to Sarah and landed on her shoulder, its flames flickering with obvious agitation. I don't think it likes that idea, Sarah said, gently stroking Ember's head to calm it. Through their growing mental connection, she could sense the dragon's fear of being separated from her or confined in some kind of laboratory. Zethkar studied the dragon's reaction thoughtfully. Perhaps institutional protection isn't the right approach. The ancient records suggest that dragons bonded with specific individuals rather than organizations. What do you mean? I mean that Ember has chosen you as its guardian, Sarah. Not the peacekeeping force, not any government or institution, you. That bond might be more important than any protection we could provide through official channels. As if to confirm his words, Ember chirped and nuzzled against Sarah's cheek. The warmth of the dragon's scales carried with it a sense of absolute trust and belonging that brought tears to Sarah's eyes. But I'm nobody special, she protested. I'm just a research assistant who happened to be in the right place at the right time. Are you? Zethkar asked gently. You've spent months caring for a dragon egg with no training or guidance. You've kept it alive through intuition and dedication alone. You've formed a mental bond with a creature that most of the galaxy believes is mythical, and now you're the guardian of what might be the most important discovery in galactic history. Sarah looked down at Ember, who was now studying her with those ancient, intelligent eyes. What am I supposed to do with a dragon? I can't just wander around the galaxy with a mythical creature on my shoulder. Why not? Zethkar asked, surprising her. The ancient records show that dragons and their guardians traveled freely throughout the galaxy, sharing knowledge and wisdom wherever they went. Perhaps that's exactly what's needed now. The idea was both terrifying and exhilarating. Sarah had spent her entire adult life in research facilities, studying other people's discoveries rather than making her own. The thought of exploring the galaxy with Ember, uncovering the secrets of ancient civilizations, was beyond anything she had ever dreamed. Ember seemed to sense her thoughts and made an encouraging sound, spreading its wings and looking toward the chamber's entrance as if eager for adventure. But we'd need a ship, Sarah said practically. And supplies and equipment. I have a ship, Zethkar said quietly. And I have centuries of experience in exploration and protection. If you're willing to trust me, I could accompany you both. Sarah stared at him in surprise. You'd give up your position in the peacekeeping force to help us? I would request extended assignment to protect and study this situation, Zethkar clarified. The return of dragons is a matter of galactic importance. My superiors would understand the need for long-term observation and protection. But even as he said it, Zethkar knew that wasn't the whole truth. Over the past few days, he had developed a genuine affection for both Sarah and Ember. The human woman's dedication and courage impressed him, while the dragon's innocent trust and growing intelligence fascinated him. The idea of leaving them to face the galaxy alone was unthinkable. Ember flew over to Zethkar and landed on his arm, looking up at him with obvious affection. The dragon made a soft sound that somehow conveyed gratitude and acceptance. Through the brief mental contact, Zethkar felt Ember's recognition of his protective nature and its desire to include him in their small family. I think that's a yes, Sarah said, smiling at the interaction between warrior and dragon. Ember wants you to come with us. And what do you want? Zethkar asked. Sarah considered the question carefully. A week ago, her biggest concern had been keeping the research station's systems running for another few days. Now she was contemplating a journey across the galaxy with a baby dragon and an alien warrior. It should have been terrifying, but instead it felt right. I want to learn, she said finally. I want to understand what Ember represents and what the return of dragons means for everyone. And I want to do it with people I trust. Ember chirped approvingly and flew back to Sarah, settling into its favorite spot against her neck. The dragon's contentment was obvious, and through their bond, Sarah felt its excitement about the adventures to come. Then it's settled, Zethkar said. We'll leave together as a team. But first we need to gather everything we can from this facility. The knowledge here could be crucial for understanding Ember's needs as it grows. As they began planning their departure, none of them noticed the subtle changes occurring in the chamber around them. The ancient systems, responding to Ember's presence and growth, were preparing final gifts for the journey ahead. Hidden compartments were opening, revealing artifacts and technologies that had waited millions of years for the right moment to be discovered. The dragons were returning to the galaxy, and the universe itself seemed to be preparing for their return. The morning of their departure revealed that the ancient facility had one final surprise in store for them. As Sarah and Zethkar finished packing the artifacts and data crystals they had gathered, Ember began acting strangely. The young dragon flew in agitated circles around the chamber, chirping with increasing urgency and repeatedly landing on a seemingly blank section of wall. "What is it, little one?" Sarah asked, following Ember to investigate. As soon as she touched the wall where the dragon had been landing, it began to glow with the same golden light that had marked Ember's egg. The wall dissolved, revealing a hidden chamber that none of them had suspected existed. Inside, 3 objects waited on pedestals that looked like they had been grown rather than carved. The first was a pendant made of the same crystalline material as Ember's egg, pulsing with gentle inner fire. The second appeared to be some kind of advanced scanning device, its organic curves suggesting dragon design. The third was a small sphere that projected a holographic map of the galaxy when Ember approached it. "Guardian gifts," Zethkar breathed, recognizing the significance. The facility was preparing these for whoever would care for the hatching dragon. Sarah picked up the pendant, gasping as it seemed to bond with her immediately. Suddenly, her connection with Ember became stronger and clearer. She could sense the dragon's emotions and thoughts with startling clarity, and she realized that Ember could now understand her thoughts as well. The scanning device responded to Zethkar's touch, integrating seamlessly with his armor's systems. Information flowed through his consciousness. Technical specifications, historical data, and most importantly, knowledge about dragon care and development that would be crucial in the days ahead. The holographic map showed not just star systems, but pathways between them that didn't appear on any modern charts. Ancient travel routes used by dragons and their guardians, hidden from those who might use such knowledge for harm. "These will help us navigate safely," Ember communicated to Sarah through their enhanced bond, the thought appearing in her mind as clearly as if the dragon had spoken aloud. Sarah started in surprise. "Did you just speak to you mentally?" "Yes," came Ember's reply, tinged with amusement. "The pendant allows for true communication between dragon and guardian. It is how our ancestors worked together." Zethkar felt his own amazement as the scanning device revealed layers of information about their surroundings that he had never imagined. He could detect energy patterns, identify materials and their origins, and most remarkably, sense the emotional states of those around him. The device would allow him to better protect his companions by understanding threats long before they became dangerous. "We should go," he said, though he felt reluctant to leave the sanctuary that had sheltered them. "My ship isn't large, but it has everything we need for extended travel." The journey to Zethkar's vessel gave Sarah her first real look at the planet's surface. The crystalline forests were even more beautiful in daylight, their faceted leaves creating rainbow patterns as the binary suns moved across the sky. Ember rode on her shoulder, commenting on everything through their mental link with the enthusiasm of a child seeing the world for the first time. Zethkar's ship was sleek and functional, designed for both speed and stealth. The interior was larger than it appeared from outside, with comfortable living quarters and a sophisticated laboratory that would be perfect for studying the artifacts they had gathered. "It's beautiful," Sarah said as they settled into the control cabin. Ember immediately flew to the main display, studying the star charts with obvious interest. "Where do we go first?" Zethkar asked, powering up the ship's systems. The answer came from Ember, who manipulated the holographic map to highlight a specific system. "There," the dragon said through the mental link. "That system contains ruins that will help me understand my heritage. And there are others there who need our help." "Others?" Sarah asked. Images flowed through their connection. A research team trapped by equipment failure on a dead world. Their supplies running low and their distress calls going unanswered because their location was too remote for normal patrols to detect. "How does Ember know about this?" Zethkar asked when Sarah shared the information. "Dragon intuition, I think," Sarah replied. Or maybe they're naturally drawn to help people in trouble. As their ship lifted off from the planet's surface, Sarah felt a mixture of excitement and sadness. The facility had been her home for months, the place where she had first encountered the miracle of dragon life. But now it was time to share that miracle with the galaxy. Their first few days of travel passed peacefully as they learned to live together in the ship's confined space. Ember grew visibly stronger each day, its size increasing and its abilities developing at an astounding rate. The dragon could now fly for extended periods without tiring, and its mental communications became more sophisticated and nuanced. Zethkar found himself taking on the role of teacher, as well as protector, sharing his knowledge of galactic politics and cultures with Sarah, while helping Ember understand the complex realities of modern civilization. The dragon absorbed information with an eagerness that reminded him of the most dedicated students at the Peacekeeping Academy. The galaxy has changed much since my ancestors went into hiding, Ember observed during one of their evening discussions. There are so many new species, so many different ways of thinking and living. Is that troubling to you? Sarah asked, sensing some uncertainty in the dragon's thoughts. Not troubling exactly, Ember replied, but my genetic memories tell me how dragons once served as bridges between different peoples, helping them understand each other and work together. I wonder if I can learn to do the same. Zethkar looked at the young dragon with new respect. That's a noble goal, Ember, but you don't have to carry that burden alone. Sarah and I are here to help, and there will be others who want to support you. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent alert from the ship's sensors. They had reached the system Ember had identified, but something was wrong. The research team's distress beacon was transmitting, but it was overlaid with other signals, aggressive, military communications that suggested the situation had become much more complicated. Raiders, Zethkar identified grimly, studying the tactical display, at least 3 ships heavily armed. They found the research team. Sarah felt Ember's distress through their bond. The dragon had wanted to help the trapped researchers, but now they were all in danger. What do we do? She asked. Zethkar's expression hardened with determination. We do what the peacekeeping force trains us to do. We protect innocent life regardless of the odds. But as he prepared the ship for what could be a desperate battle, he wondered if he was making the right choice. Ember was still young and vulnerable, and Sarah was a civilian with no combat training. Was he risking everything for a rescue that might be impossible? The answer came through his enhanced perception device, which detected Ember's emotional state. The young dragon felt no fear, only determination to help those in need. In that moment, Zethkar realized that courage wasn't about the absence of fear. It was about choosing to do the right thing despite the danger. Hold on, he told his companions as he engaged the ship's stealth systems and began plotting an approach to the besieged research station. We're going to show these raiders what happens when they threaten innocent people under dragon protection. Ember spread its wings and flames danced along its scales, not with fear or anger, but with the ancient fire of justice that had once made dragons the galaxy's greatest protectors. The legends were coming to life, and the universe was about to remember why dragons had been both feared and revered throughout history. The research station hung in space like a broken toy, its hull scarred by weapon fire and its emergency lights flickering weakly. 3 raider ships circled it like predators, their gun ports glowing with barely contained energy. Zethkar's stealth approach had brought them close enough to see the details of the siege, and what he saw made his warrior's blood boil with anger. They're not just after the research, he growled, studying the tactical display. They're toying with the survivors. This is sport to them. Through her bond with Ember, Sarah could feel the dragon's growing agitation. The young creature's natural protective instincts were awakening, and she could sense ancient memories stirring, images of dragons defending the innocent against those who would do them harm. The research team is trapped in the central laboratory, Ember reported, its enhanced senses somehow able to penetrate the station's damaged hull. 12 people, including 3 children. Their life support will fail within hours. Children? Sarah's voice cracked with emotion. The thought of youngsters trapped in that dying station while raiders played their cruel games was unbearable. The raider commander wants them to surrender some kind of artifact they discovered, Zethkar said, intercepting the raiders' communications. Something they found in ruins similar to where you found Ember's egg. Ember's flames flared brighter. Another dragon sanctuary, They must not be allowed to desecrate it. Zethkar found himself facing a tactical nightmare. His ship was fast and well armed, but taking on 3 raider vessels while protecting a damaged station and its trapped occupants would challenge even the most experienced peacekeeping force squadron. But as he looked at his companions, a human woman who had sacrificed everything to protect a dragon egg, and a young dragon whose courage far exceeded its size, he felt something he hadn't experienced in decades of military service. Hope. "I have a plan," he said, his 4 hands dancing across the control systems. "But it's dangerous and it depends on abilities we've never tested in combat. What do you need us to do?" Sarah asked without hesitation. "Ember, can you use your connection to ancient technology to interface with the station's systems? If you can restore their shields and life support, that will give us time to deal with the raiders." The dragon nodded eagerly. "Yes, but I'll need to get close to the station. The connection range is limited. And Sarah, I need you to coordinate the rescue once we've cleared the immediate threat. Your experience with research teams will be crucial for organizing an efficient evacuation." Sarah felt a flutter of fear at the responsibility, but Ember's confidence flowed through their bond, steadying her nerves. "I'll do whatever it takes." Zethkar engaged the ship's advanced stealth systems and began his approach. The raiders were so focused on intimidating their trapped victims that they failed to notice the sleek vessel moving silently through the asteroid field that surrounded the research station. When they were within range, Ember spread its wings and closed its eyes in concentration. The dragon's natural connection to ancient technology reached out across the void, touching systems that had been dormant since the station's power grid was damaged. Slowly, almost miraculously, lights began to flicker back to life on the research station. "Impossible," one of the raider captains snarled over the communications channel. "That station was dead. How are they restoring power?" The answer came in the form of defensive shields snapping to life around the station, followed by emergency life support systems kicking in with renewed vigor. The trapped researchers, who had been facing slow death by asphyxiation, suddenly found themselves breathing clean air again. "Now," Zethkar whispered, and his ship dropped its stealth field as it emerged from the asteroid cover with weapons blazing. The first raider ship never knew what hit it. Zethkar's surprise attack crippled its engines and weapon systems before its crew could even raise shields. The second ship managed to return fire, but the Velkari commander's centuries of combat experience showed as he piloted his vessel through a series of maneuvers that made their attackers' shots go wide. But it was the third raider ship that posed the real threat. Its captain was experienced and ruthless, and when he realized he was facing a peacekeeping force vessel, he immediately targeted the research station with his most powerful weapons. "If I can't have the artifact, no one can," he snarled, preparing to fire. That's when Ember showed the galaxy what dragons were truly capable of. The young dragon spread its wings and flames erupted around its entire body. But these weren't the gentle fires of contentment or communication. These were the ancient flames of protection, burning with an intensity that made the very air around them shimmer. Ember launched itself from the ship's open airlock, surrounded by a protective energy field that allowed it to survive in the vacuum of space. "Ember, no," Sarah cried. But the dragon was already streaking toward the raider ship like a living comet. The raider captain had time for one moment of absolute terror as he realized he was facing something that shouldn't exist. Then Ember struck his ship's main weapon array, and the ancient fires that had once defended civilizations throughout the galaxy made short work of the raiders' crude technology. The weapon systems overloaded and exploded, sending the raider ship tumbling helplessly through space. Its captain and crew, faced with a creature from their worst nightmares, decided that discretion was the better part of valor, and engaged their emergency jump drives, fleeing the system as quickly as their damaged ship could manage. The other 2 raider vessels, seeing their leaders retreat, quickly followed suit. Ember flew back to Zethkar's ship, its flames gradually dimming to their normal gentle glow, but Sarah could sense the exhaustion flowing through their bond. The young dragon had pushed itself to its limits to protect the innocent people on the research station. "That was incredible," she whispered as Ember settled wearily into her arms. "But don't ever scare me like that again." "Had to protect them," Ember replied weakly through their mental connection. "Dragons always protect those who cannot protect themselves." With the immediate threat eliminated, They turned their attention to the research station. Sarah coordinated the evacuation with the efficiency of someone who truly understood the needs of research teams, while Zethkar provided security and technical support. The 12 survivors, including 3 children as Ember had detected, were safely transferred to the ship within hours. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the research team leader, was a weathered woman in her 50s whose eyes held the intensity of someone who had spent her life uncovering the secrets of the universe. But when she saw Ember perched on Sarah's shoulder, those eyes widened with wonder. "A dragon," she breathed. "A living dragon. We found references to them in the ruins, but I never dreamed." "What did you discover in those ruins?" Zethkar asked. "Evidence of a vast network of knowledge repositories," Dr. Vasquez replied. "Whoever built them was trying to preserve information against some kind of catastrophic loss. We found star charts showing locations throughout the galaxy, but the raiders attacked before we could study them properly." Ember chirped with interest, and Sarah felt the dragon's excitement through their bond. Ember says those repositories were dragon sanctuaries, places where knowledge was stored to prevent it from being lost during the Great Wars. "And there are more of them?" Dr. Vasquez asked eagerly. "Many more," Sarah confirmed. "We're trying to map them and understand their purpose." As they prepared to transport the research team to safety, Dr. Vasquez made an unexpected request. "Let us come with you," she said. "My team and I have spent years studying ancient civilizations. We could help you understand what you're discovering." Sarah looked at Ember, who trilled with obvious approval. Through their bond, she sensed the dragon's desire to build a community of knowledge seekers and protectors, people who could help restore the wisdom that had been lost when the dragons disappeared. "What do you think?" she asked Zethkar. The Velkhari warrior considered the proposal carefully. More people meant more complexity, more resources needed, and more potential security risks. But it also meant more expertise, more perspectives, and more hands to help with the monumental task of understanding dragon civilization. "If they're willing to accept the dangers," he said finally, "then yes, this mission is bigger than any of us can handle alone." As their ship jumped to hyperspace with its expanded crew, Sarah felt a sense of rightness about their growing group. Ember was no longer just her responsibility. It was becoming the heart of something larger, a new community dedicated to rediscovering the lost wisdom of dragons and sharing it with a galaxy that desperately needed their guidance. The rescue had been successful, but more importantly, it had shown them all what they could accomplish when they worked together. Dragons, humans, Velkhari, and others united in purpose and strengthened by their differences. The legends were not just returning, they were evolving. 6 months after the rescue at the research station, the galaxy was beginning to change in ways that no one could have predicted. Word of Ember's existence had spread through both official channels and underground networks, creating ripples of excitement, fear, and hope throughout known space. Sarah stood on the observation deck of their new mobile research facility, watching as teams of scientists from dozens of species worked together to unlock the secrets of dragon technology. The facility itself was a marvel, grown rather than built using techniques discovered in the ancient repositories. Its organic architecture seeming to pulse with life. Ember had grown considerably, now the size of a large dog with wings that could carry it gracefully through the facility's corridors. But more impressive than its physical growth was the development of its wisdom and leadership abilities. The young dragon had become the heart of their expanding community, bringing together beings who might never have cooperated without its unifying presence. "The Galactic Council has agreed to our proposal," Zethkar announced as he joined Sarah at the observation window. The Velkhari warrior now bore the insignia of a special liaison, his role having evolved from protector to diplomat as governments throughout the galaxy sought to understand the implications of the dragon's return. "All of it?" Sarah asked, hardly daring to believe it. "Official recognition of dragon rights, protection for sanctuary sites, and funding for peaceful research into ancient technologies," Zethkar confirmed. It wasn't easy. There were those who wanted to capture and study Ember, others who feared what dragon knowledge might mean for the balance of power. But Ember's own presentation to the council was persuasive. Sarah smiled, remembering the historic moment when Ember had addressed the assembled representatives of galactic civilization. The dragon had spoken not of power or dominance, but of cooperation and shared wisdom. It had offered to help heal old wounds between species and share knowledge that could benefit everyone. Dr. Vasquez approached them, her arms full of data tablets and her face glowing with excitement. "Sarah, you need to see this. We've located 17 more dragon eggs, all in various stages of development, and 3 of them are showing signs of imminent hatching." The news sent a thrill through Sarah's heart. Ember would not be alone much longer. The young dragon had often expressed loneliness, the weight of being the only one of its kind in the modern galaxy. Soon there would be others to share its burden and its joy. "Any indication of what species they'll bond with?" Sarah asked. "That's the fascinating part," Dr. Vasquez replied. "Our analysis suggests that each egg is attuned to different characteristics. Not species-specific, but personality and intention-specific. One seems drawn to healers, another to explorers, a third to protectors." Through her strengthened bond with Ember, Sarah felt the dragon's excitement at this news. Images flowed through their connection, visions of dragons working alongside beings from across the galaxy, each partnership unique but all united by shared values of knowledge, protection, and growth. "There's something else," Dr. Vasquez continued, her voice dropping to an awed whisper. "We found evidence of a dragon homeworld. Not just ruins or abandoned facilities, but an actual living world where dragons still exist in large numbers." Sarah's breath caught. "Living dragons? But I thought they all went into hibernation." "Not all of them." Ember's voice resonated in her mind, tinged with ancient sadness and new hope. "Some of my people chose to retreat completely from galactic civilization, hiding on worlds so remote that they hoped never to be found. But now that the galaxy has shown it can accept our return, perhaps it's time for them to emerge as well." The implications were staggering. If there were still communities of adult dragons alive somewhere in the galaxy, it could change everything. Ember's knowledge, impressive as it was, came from genetic memories and ancient records. Living dragons would possess wisdom gained through actual experience. "Where is this homeworld?" Zeth Carr asked. Dr. Vasquez showed them a star chart with a distant system marked in golden light. Beyond the outer rim, in a sector that most species avoid because of dangerous stellar phenomena. "The perfect hiding place. And the dragons there, would they welcome contact?" Sarah asked. Ember was quiet for a long moment, seeming to commune with memories deeper than its own experience. "They are cautious," the dragon finally replied. "The retreat to that world was born from great pain and loss. Many of my people there believe that interaction with other species brings only sorrow. But seeing what we have accomplished here, how different beings can work together for mutual benefit, perhaps their hearts could be changed." Over the following weeks, their community prepared for what might be the most important journey in galactic history. The expedition to contact the hidden dragon homeworld would require careful planning, diplomatic sensitivity, and absolute respect for the dragon's right to remain isolated if they chose. Sarah found herself selected as the primary human representative, a role that both honored and terrified her. 6 months ago, she had been a research assistant whose biggest responsibility was maintaining laboratory equipment. Now she was preparing to speak for her entire species, in a meeting that could determine the future of galactic civilization. "You're ready for this," Ember assured her as they stood together in the facility's central garden, a space where plants from dozens of worlds grew in harmony under carefully controlled conditions. "You have the heart of a true guardian, and that is what my people will recognize and respect. But what if I say the wrong thing? What if they see humans as just another species seeking to exploit dragon knowledge?" "Then you show them what I have learned about humans," Ember replied, its flames flickering with warm affection. "You show them beings who risk their lives to protect dragon eggs they don't understand, who sacrifice their comfort to care for creatures they've never seen before, who choose cooperation over conquest and wisdom over power." The expedition ship was a marvel of combined technology, dragon knowledge seamlessly integrated with the best engineering from multiple species. As they approached the hidden system, Sarah felt a mixture of excitement and trepidation that was shared by everyone aboard. The homeworld, when it finally appeared on their view screens, was breathtaking. Crystalline spires reached toward purple skies while streams of liquid starlight flowed between cities that seemed to grow from the very ground. And everywhere dragons soared through the air with a grace and majesty that made Sarah's heart ache with wonder. "My people," Ember whispered, its voice filled with emotions too complex for human understanding. The first contact was tentative, cautious, conducted through ancient protocols that Ember barely remembered. But gradually, as the hidden dragons sensed the genuine respect and peaceful intentions of the expedition, walls began to come down. The Elder Council of the Homeworld was led by an ancient dragon whose scales held the colors of dying stars. When it spoke, its voice carried the weight of millions of years of history. "We withdrew from the galaxy because we believed it had no place for wisdom and protection," the Elder said. "We believed that younger species could only bring conflict and sorrow. But you, small guardian," it addressed Sarah directly, "you and your companions have shown us something we thought was lost forever." "What's that?" Sarah asked, her voice steady despite her nervousness. "Hope," the Elder replied. "Hope that the galaxy can still learn, can still grow, can still choose cooperation over conquest. You have taken a young dragon into your heart not for what you could gain from it, but for what you could give to it. That is the true spirit of guardianship." The negotiations that followed established a new era for galactic civilization. The dragons would gradually emerge from their isolation, sharing their knowledge and wisdom with species that proved themselves worthy through actions rather than words. New academies would be established where beings from across the galaxy could learn alongside dragons, fostering understanding and cooperation. But perhaps most importantly, the dragon-guardian bond that Sarah and Ember shared would become a model for a new kind of relationship between species. One based on mutual respect, shared growth, and the recognition that true strength came not from power over others, but from the wisdom to protect and nurture all life. As Sarah stood on the homeworld's surface, watching Ember play with other young dragons for the first time in its life, she realized that her journey from research assistant to dragon guardian had been preparing her for something far greater than she had ever imagined. She was helping to birth a new age of galactic civilization, one where the ancient wisdom of dragons would guide younger species toward a brighter future. The legends had returned, but they had brought with them something even more valuable than mythical power. They had brought hope for a galaxy where all beings could thrive together in harmony and understanding. And at the heart of it all was the bond between a human woman and a baby dragon, proving that sometimes the smallest acts of love and protection could change the entire universe.